Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Let me introduce myself first. My name is Fathimatuzzahra, and you can call me Zahra. This interview is for my midterm test.
Okay, Zara, fire away.
And before we start the interview, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name's Georgia and I'm currently in Solo. I've been here for a few months and I'm having a very, very good time learning the culture. We're here for work and I've never been to Java before, so it's all very new, but yeah. Anything else?
No.
All right.
Okay, let's start the interview. Question number 1 is, have you ever been going abroad or encounter with foreigners in certain of times? Could you please tell from which country and how long did you encounter with this foreigner?
So I'm from England. So I think a good example of all of this is about my experience being in Java for the first time. From when I arrived here, I didn't really speak any Bahasa Indonesia or any Bahasa Jawa either. So my encounters have been very mixed depending on the language barrier. It's been a big factor. And I think I've tried to learn the language as quickly as possible. It's still pretty shaky, but I'm trying because I think that is a great way to bridge the initial difference between two people from different countries. And especially in my opinion, being in Java and Indonesia, I should be the one trying to learn the language. So I'm experiencing meeting new people from different cultures every day. And so yeah, it's a constant thing for me living here now. As opposed to in England, I meet lots of people from different places a lot. It's a very multicultural place. I used to live in London. But yeah, it's more intense in a very good way.
Question number 2, did you experience a culture shock during the time you were communicating with this foreigner? Please tell further what culture shock did you experience?
Yeah, so when I arrived here, as I said, the big culture shock was the language, and it is a big barrier, but it's a good one in order to try and get over. That's the biggest culture shock for me, I think. Especially speaking English is my primary language, and not being able to really rely on English was a big a good culture shock. But there's a lot, wherever you go, there's a lot of differences in culture, and I think me being someone to come here, it's good and it's important to expect them and to take them in your stride. In terms of specifics, I think the language is a big culture shock, and the food. Food's very different too. Yeah.
Okay, for question number 3, how did you feel about this culture shocks you experienced with this foreigner? did it affect your relation with the foreigner?
I think no, in terms of, for me, I would like to understand more about differences, and there's always common ground that you can find with anyone, I think, even if you can't actually communicate through language. You can communicate through gestures, or by just kind of experiencing and sharing something. I think it's never, there's a, the language is always a barrier, but it doesn't have to be something that stops you from trying to understand more. Being in Java, Java has an incredibly deep culture, and it's been amazing to try and understand it more, because it feels very different from British culture. It makes me wonder what British culture is, because there's such a clear culture here, and yeah, we want to learn more. It makes me more interested. I like finding the differences in order to, talk about the comparisons between maybe what I do in my culture. It's exciting.
That's great. Then what solution did you finally come up with this culture shock? How did you finally adapt to it?
So constantly adapting to the differences between living here and living in the UK. For me, the first is to try and learn the language and to try everything, whether that is food or and to learn about the subtle differences, to try and make sure that we are respectful, and also it goes both ways. I think it's nice to be able to share one's culture and talk about each of them, in order for everyone to kind of understand where and why different people are different ways.
Okay, and for the last question is, what the lesson learned you have got from that culture shock?
What lesson have I learned? Well, I'm doing a lot of Bahasa Indonesia lessons as a result, but I think the lesson to learn is to embrace cultural differences, and that they don't have to be a reason to not engage with people. They should be more of a reason to engage with as many different people as you can, because we all have a lot to learn from each other, and we have a lot to share as well.
Thank you.
No worries.
That's all my questions. Thank you very much for helping me.
No worries. I hope it goes well.